Good morning, friends. In an attempt to give you the detailed summary of a famous novel, Azadi, composed by Chaman Nahar, I have told you that this is a big novel and it consists of 12 chapters. The novelist has divided the novel into 3 parts. The first part is the lull. It consists of 5 chapters, and in the previous 2 videos we have completed the summary of those 5 chapters. Now we will take up the part 2, and that is entitled The Storm. It consists of 6 chapters, and there is a third part, The Aftermath, consists of 1 chapter. So let us begin chapter number first of the part 2, Storm. As you know, this novel is prescribed in BA part 2nd, paper 2nd. And as an Indian, one should have studied such novels because it is one of the most famous and because very near to originality, a novel on the theme of partition, which happened in 1947. As far as myself is concerned, I am Dr. Vijayendra Singh Tawar, Associate Professor in English, and presently I have been posted at Government College, Guda. So let us take the chapter number first of part 2. As we know, in the first part, the lull, there was calm, and now the title, as the title of this part shows, Storm, there will be a lot of violence which took place at the time of partition among Hindus and Muslims. So Lala Kasiram and his family members, and also all Hindus and Sikhs of his familiarity or acquaintance, they all settled in the refugee camp in the Sialkot. So the refugee camps for the Hindus were established outside the city Sialkot near the cantonment area. The tragedy, look at the tragedy, the sons of Sialkot, means the original native of Sialkot, they became refugee in the land of Pakistan. Pakistan was created for Muslims and not for Hindus, so Hindus did not have any place. Hindus had to vacate big buildings where they had to live earlier, of which they were the owner. They had to vacate all these buildings. The Hindus faced several hardships, difficulties in the refugee camps, but as it is life, and in life such things happen. The rain was so heavy that it entered into the small tent houses as they were living in tents. So the rain created more and more problems for the refugees. It had also rained on the 15th of August, the Independence Day, on which it is said India was freed or India got independence. The news of the celebration in Delhi was blocked out by the Pakistani press, and no Indian newspaper was available. See the enmity or a kind of prejudice in the mind of Pakistanis at that time. Most of the families were aggrieved at their personal fate. They also felt inexplicably proud that at last our country has got freedom. The residents of Fort Street were given 4 tents. Lala Kasiram was given 1 tent. Bibi Amarvati and the Sardars, because of Isar Kaur, was given 1 tent, and the remaining residents of Fort Streets were given another tent. So in the tent of Lala, Prabharani, Arun, and Padmani, and also given the place to Chandni, the daughter of Padmani. After some days, the camp was visited by Dr. Chandrabhan and his wife. They were well dressed, and Lala was not in the tent. He was outside. When he came, he found that Dr. Chandrabhan was there. And Chandrabhan said, "We have bad news for you. I wish we weren't the messengers. We have heard your daughter Madhubala is killed." Then Lala Kasiram asked, "Who gave you the news? How did he come to know about it?" Then Dr. Chandrabhan told that Lala Dinanath of Gujarat informed him, and he had gone. Lala Kasiram and his family had acted in a most unpredictable manner. Staring at their ornate dress, means Chandrabhan and his wife, Lala got up and indicated he wanted his visitors to leave. Means Lala was reluctant to believe Chandrabhan and his wife, as they did not come to give this kind of sad news. Prabharani did not cry. She did not even flicker her eyelids. Arun said, "Ma, I am sure this is only a rumor. They were idiots to have come and surprised us like this. I am sure Madhu is alive and we will soon hear from her." Prabharani declared, "A mother's heart needs no confirmation." And she was sure that Madhubala, something wrong has happened to Madhu. Then Lala and Arun went to the lane in which Chandrabhan lived. They made inquiries about the news and they got the information that they were told the whole story as narrated by Lala Dinanath. How Rajiv, the husband of Madhu, and Madhu, they were boarding in the same train in which Lala Dinanath was traveling. Suddenly they were attacked by Muslims and both Rajiv and Madhubala were killed. And Lala Dinanath was escaped by bribing a Muslim. So it was a kind of jolt in the life of Lala Kasiram, and he asked Arun to go and find out the truth. He instructed him that he should go to Chaudhry Barkat Ali. Suraj Prakash or Arun, both of them decided to go and find out the truth. Both of them impersonating themselves Muslims and visited Chaudhry Barkat Ali's place. Suraj Prakash was taught Kalma by Arun. If somebody asked, he should narrate Kalma so that there should not be any kind of suspicion regarding their being Muslims. When they were going to Chaudhry Barkat Ali's residence, they saw the area used to have a Hindu majority and every single house in that bazaar had been burned down. Mianpura was a mixed, there are Hindus, Muslims, both lived there. So the mob had carefully selected the Hindu homes and set fire to them alone, with the result that much of Mianpura looked like a pair of jaws with many teeth missing. Means the writers selected Hindu houses and then they burned them down. They also saw the shopkeepers wearing the Hindu shops, means which were owned by Hindu shopkeepers. Other shops were open. They reached Barkat Ali residence. Muni received him. He was surprised. Then Chaudhry welcomed them and Arun told him about the death of Madhu and Rajiv. All of the members, as I told you, Barkat Ali used to regard himself as his brother, that is brother of Lala Kasiram. So he sympathized with them. And Noor, who was beloved of Arun, also said, "Ammi, Ammi, why has this happened? Why has Madhu been killed?" Means he was also shocked by this tragedy. Chaudhry Barkat Ali asked his servant Khalil Ahmed and Niaz Ahmed Hussain and Munir, that and he himself will go to come in the company of Arun and Suraj Prakash to know the truth at the railway station. They reached at the railway station. They saw that there was police. So a police officer knew Chaudhary Barakat Ali. He realized he knew Chaudhary Barakat Ali and he asked Chaudhary Barakat Ali. They had been cremating them since morning. They had very nearly finished. The last batch was being cremated now. That the incident reported by Chandrabhan was the truth. Many Hindus were killed there and their dead bodies have been cremated from morning to evening. Abdul Ghani was there. Arun identified him and said, he said before the police that I am one of the Khaskar volunteers, sir, helping to keep our city clean by cremating the kafir dead. He also told Arun that I put her and her husband into the fire with my own hands and they are now on their way to Dozak, means to hell, where I hope they rot forever. He made no effort to disguise his venom. Means Abdul Ghani used to hate Lala Kasiram and his family, and he told that he has burned the dead bodies of Rajiv and Madhubala by his own hands. His behavior was not of a human being, so it enraged Chaudhary Barakat Ali and he caught hold of Ghani by the neck with both his hands and he said, you shaitan, you blot on the name of Islam. He abused him. The other people who were standing there with difficulty separated them. The police officer rebuked Abdul Ghani and said, get away, you dog, get back to your work. All the rest too, get back to your work. That is, that even policeman was also affected by the tragedy, but not Abdul Ghani. Chaudhary Barakat Ali said, Arun son, I don't think I will be able to face your parents tonight. Munir and Khalil will see you safely to the camp. I will come tomorrow morning. Suraj Prakash was smoking incessantly. He got the opportunity. He got and he smoked there. He lighted another cigarette and said, I am as sad as Madhu's death. Means he also sorry for Madhu's death, but his behavior so that he took it so lightly. Arun was lying awake in his tent. He remembered his relationship with his sister. Madhu was fit, but only havoc the disease had done to the face. Means he remembered how they used to spend time when they were children in each other company, how they used to talk, how once she was menstruated, that she kept some cloth and she called it bandage. Arun did not know about that. Then she told him that he would come to know at the right time, and there was some kind of relationship with the Madhu's friend. They used to taunt Arun. Everything was remembered by Arun. There was a difference of 4 years age between them. Madhubala was 4 years older than Arun. They used to sleep together and talked on all kind of subjects. Madhu was married, but she could not conceive. There was a problem in her life. She said, Arun, I am barren, and decided after some consultancy with other doctors, she decided to adopt a child of their relative. And she was very happy. She became religious and she was hopeful that as she will take a child, adopt a child, because of that she may conceive afterwards. She decided to visit Vaishno Devi also. Arun was lying awake on his cot and he was remembering everything. Suddenly he looked at the Chandni. As she slept peacefully, her small breasts were gently moving up and down. Arun crawled up to her and lay next to her. Arun knew how foolhardily he was being. He was so much excited by her presence that he was behaving like a fool. There had been a death in the family. The first thing, he should not have indulged in such kind of relationship because he just come by the information of the death of his sister. There were other person in the tent. His mother and father and Padmani was also sleeping nearby. But he was for the moment oblivious of everything. He saw only Chandni. Death had hit them, yet all around him was the flow of force which would not be brought to an end. It was the continuity of life. He lay next to Chandni and wanted to hold her in his arms. He was so much infatuated or attracted towards Chandni that he forget everything. That life must go on. The person who is dead, he will not come back. We should move forward. So he was in such a mood. Raising himself on his elbow, he placed a hand firmly on one of Chandni's breast and planted a kiss on her open lips. He kissed her when she was sleeping. Suddenly, Chandni woke up and she saw here and there, but she was in a bewilderment or confusion whether she was kissed in dream or in real life. Chandni saw Arun beside her. She became alert, tried to avoid him. Arun said, I love you, Chandni. Arun declared his love for Chandni. Now, chapter 2. Madhubala's death had a great impact on the mind of Kasiram. He was crushed. There was his will to live, willpower was deeply hurt. He now insisted they should leave for India at the earliest possible occasion. Now he had no, you can say, desire to live in Pakistan. Earlier he wanted to live in Pakistan. As a businessman, Lala had faced several ups and downs on earlier occasions also, but now he was completely hopeless. He had put his faith in the local administration, means when he was as a businessman and decided that it is quite possible that he will be allowed to live in Pakistan, then he had faith in local administration, police, army, leader, General Rice, the commander-in-chief of the Punjab Boundary Force, which was set up in August to protect the minorities in the Punjab. He was an Englishman and Lala Kasiram was a great fan of Englishmen. But now he did not believe in any of them. And yet one after the other, all of Kasiram's trust had come to nothing, realized that they had neither power nor the intention to save the lives of minorities. They should have devised means of mass migration to begin with before rushing to partition. Now they should at least keep their mouths shut and not mislead the poor credulous people. Means he was very angry on the leaders. He came to conclusion, or he started thinking that Jinnah and Nehru were villains enough. Kripalani was the worst offender because he used to say that people, the minority who are living where they should live, there. Lala Kasiram says in surprise, when General Rice failed, he said, an Englishman unable to keep land order? Lala Kasiram reeled when he thought of it. It was like the sun rising in the west. He realized the hopelessness of Rais Sahib. The death of Madhu was the last blow to his shattered psyche. The idea is, even he lost the faith in English administration. Earlier, he used to believe that English people are good administrator and they can establish law and order. Now, he does not believe in any such thing. The minorities in Pakistan were butchered even worse than animals, and there was no law and order. He also realized that in the camp, a new kind of caste system developed in the refugee camp. If you had lost a limb, or if a member of your family had been killed or raped or forcibly abducted, you won a medal for yourself. The idea is, authorities and other people give you some respect. You received a preferential treatment. Lala was such person, but one thing Lala did not give up, that he continued worshipping his God. He used to worship God Krishna, and he continued even in his critical days. When Lala Kasiram wanted company of anybody, he went out in the company of Arun only. Two of them went for long walks. If Arun talked of Madhu, he did not show any interest and said, it is a question of one's karma, Lala said. By the end of August, the authorities thought of shifting minorities boundary commission. Award was announced. Became clear which part is in India and which part in Pakistan. Boundary commission declared that these are the areas they belong to Pakistan and these are the areas belong to India. All were unsatisfied. Sikhs wanted that the basis should be Chenab. Hindus were also not satisfied. Muslims were also not satisfied. There was problem, but it was declared. Sir Cyril Radcliffe, chairman of Boundary Commission, did impossible task in 5 weeks to cut a country in 2 parts. When your fellow judges on the commission were warring with each other on communal grounds. Means there was no unanimity, there was no consent between all the members, but he was able to divide the country into 2 parts within 5 months. There was chaos, the result was there was anarchy. Government did not know their rights and privileges in the area of other, that whether Indian forces have right in the area of Pakistan or Pakistan forces have in the area of India. During the month of August, armed escorts for the refugees were provided by the boundary force. Now the responsibilities were shifted to respective governments. Now it was declared that it is the responsibility of each government that they should provide security to the citizen living in their respective parts. Now it was thought the shortest routes out of Sialkot was through the state of Kashmir. But unfortunately, Kashmir border was only 10 miles away, but the particular exit was closed for refugees due to war on the issue of Kashmir. As there was war going on between Indian forces and Pakistan forces, so that was closed. So shortest route was not available for the refugees. The other route was Sialkot to Wazirabad, from there to Amritsar by the way of Lahore, but Prabharani said she could not face passing through Wazirabad after Madhu's death there. So this option was also not available for Lala Kasiram. Third option was direct route from Sialkot to Amritsar, 82 miles away. Border was about 44 miles near a town, Dera Baba Nanak. This was the third and last option. So this decided to go through this route. For some reasons which Lala Kasiram could not understand, The Pakistan authorities ran no refugees train from Sialkot to Dera Baba Nanak. Lalla was surprised that if they would have been trained from Sialkot to Dera Baba, he would have gone through train. There was talk of foot convoys, and he wanted to be in that convoy along with his family as earlier as possible. Arun and his father were talking about their options to leave for India. He saw one of his college friends in military uniform, and it was Rahmatullah Khan, and he was his classmate of Murray College. Rahmatullah Khan was in army uniform and he recognized Arun. About him, the author says that he accepted temporary commission in the Second World War in 1944. As he was a Muslim, he decided to accept it, whereas Arun and Munir did not accept it because they were nationalists. He was 5 or 4 years older than Arun, but he was a friend of Arun. Not very close, but you can say they knew each other. Then he recognized, that is Rahmatullah Khan recognized Arun, and when he was asked whether he has opted for Indian Army or Pakistani Army, then he said, yes, I have opted for Pakistani Army. It was natural for him. He has been posted as camp commandant. The refugees who were standing there, they saw and started complaining about their problems, about various things, about their rations, about their living conditions, etc., and goods, etc. But he paid no attention. Rahmatullah Khan invited Arun at his residence. Next morning, Arun went to see Rahmat, who received Arun with courtesy. He said, no convoy for Dera Baba Nanak before the end of September. They had to wait for the arrival of Indian troops to escort them. The idea is, he made it very clear that they will have to wait up to September. Then only they can go to India. Arun told Rahmat about the family tragedy. Arun was very much surprised when he did not show any kind of sympathy, special sympathy for the death of Madhu. He said he was sorry in English, but that was routine. He did not condemn the communal killings. This was not liked by Arun. After 2 days, Rahmat appeared at Lala's tent. His glance fell on Sunanda. He saw Sunanda. Sunanda was very beautiful, and he was infatuated by the beauty of Sunanda. He also talked to Suraj Prakash. Suraj Prakash said, sir, we here Muslim refugees from Bihar have moved into our houses in Port Street. Who is going to collect the rent for us from them? Rahmatullah Khan said, it is a policy matter and it will be decided by the government. He is just a soldier. Rahmat was 5 years older than the average students. We don't know about his character when he was a student with Arun, and how he used to boast that he had girlfriends everywhere in every corner of the Sialkot. Anyway, he invited Arun again and sent his jeep. Arun came to know the purpose of this invitation, but anyway, Arun went there. He was received. He was offered wine, then beer, then whiskey. But Arun simply said he wanted only tea. Then Rahmatullah Khan made inquiries about Sunanda. He said, I might as well be frank with you. I like this woman. He declared. He did not hide his feelings. He made it clear before Arun that he was infatuated by the beauty of that lady, Sunanda. Arun became angry at this unethical demand of Captain Rahmatullah Khan to bring Sunandawala for his sexual gratification. Said, "You better watch yourself. That woman is my sister." That was a stuff and nonsense, said Rahmatullah Khan, getting up from the chair and pacing the room. "You damn well know she is not. Why must you Hindu boys go round making a sister of every woman? If you promise to bring her here of an evening, I'll personally take you and your parents to the Jammu border in my jeep. You people will reach safely in less than half an hour." Arun did not accept that proposal. Rahmat Khan made repeated trips to lane 25 of the camp on various excuses. What happened that they lived in the 25th lane of the camp. Rahmat Khan visited just to have a look at Sunandawala to get an opportunity. Rahmatullah Khan was most courteous to Lala Kasiram and Prabharani. He used to show his courtesy, good manners. But Prabharani judged him and said he had the eyes of a loafer, and the moment he arrived, she sent Chandani out of town. Since she was an experienced lady and she understand what is in his eyes. For many days, Gangu Mul, the husband of Bibi Amarvati, had not been seen. Bibi Amarvati was worried, though she was not as perturbed by his absence, as she used to think that he was a liability. Arun was asked by Sunanda to follow her to the water taps. She, also being a woman, can understand what is in the eyes of the male. So she took Arun to the tap. Arun, she said to Arun, "Arun, this friend of yours, the army officer, why does he come to visit you so often? How much does she know?" Arun thought, it means she has some kind of anticipation, but how much she knows what is the reality. But Sunanda says one thing, "Tell him I will kill him if he ever tries to touch me." By this sentence clearly states that Sunanda realized that his intentions were not good. He was not a good person. He had something bad or evil in his mind. Thank you very much. We will see in the next part of the summary. Thank you.